Hello? Hello. Can you hear me all right? Spy or Clubbard, it's good to see you. All right. Welcome to the InterBeing Art live chat. I'm your host, InterBeing Art. Yeah, I wanted this live chat to be a little bit more looser so I can respond to the comments more. I got some items that I can discuss, but like it's a real free for all this time, so it's real exciting. We can go in any direction, really. Yeah, so I do want to give a slight trigger warning for this live stream just because I will be briefly talking about suicide and possibly the traumas that lead up to that, maybe a little bit, but I'm not sure how much I'll be talking about it, but we're going to deal with this. I wanted to dedicate this live stream to a recent member of the psychedelic community who took his life just earlier this week. I was informed. This is a psychedelic, a psychonaut in our community who took his life while he was on his third LSD trip. They were taking pretty massive doses. The dose, his last dose earlier this week, you can see the silhouette of my cat right here, was 315 UG. Mitts, you cannot be up there. I'm talking about serious stuff right now. This member, this person, his Reddit username was Celolandstein. Or Celock Landstein, I'm not sure. And his Instagram was Kanatzar _art_shit. You can see. Yeah. I really feel for the loss of this person. We can't really deny the dark side of psychedelics. You know, that all drugs are neutral. They're just neutral substances, and we can use them for, they have great benefits and great potential, but they can also lead to self-harm and lots of other bad stuff. Actually, I'm going to pull up his art briefly before we get into this. See, this was his art. This is not the best way to be showing his art, but I was a fan. I've been following him for a while. Why aren't you scrolling? There we go. Yeah. Started off with cars and stuff and then got more trippy. Like this one's really trippy. But also you can see the visceral darkness. His friend that told me about the decease earlier this week told me that he was fine before his first acid trip, which was 500 UG or micrograms. That was in late last year, November, December. So in his honor, I'd like to light this candle on this full moon. Our thoughts and prayers are with him. Okay. LSD, Spy or Clubbard. LSD can put you into those states where you think you broke reality forever, and the only way to move on to something different is suicide. I've had the thought before during intense reality loops. Yeah, I haven't experienced the feeling of breaking my mind. I've felt like I was close to breaking my mind a few times, and I've had some pretty deep trips. So I haven't had that experience of feeling that was the only way out. However, I have had the experience because psychedelics kind of makes you feel like you're entering into the other side, like the afterlife. At least for me. And so like I've had feelings where like I wasn't suicidal, but I felt like I could die right now and I'd be fine. Like I feel like it's a state that you feel like you're so close to dying, you know. And we can't say what was going through his mind at the time of his of taking his own life, but he was struggling since this first trip, and he tried it a couple more times, and then on the third time was his last. All of his trip reports are on his Reddit. Um, his first and second trip report. I've yet to read it. I actually got the text up here, and because of my ADD, I didn't end up reading it. But yeah, it's definitely worth a read, and to take into account how these things can come about, because psychedelics have great therapeutic potential, but and the wrong context and the wrong headspace, and just even when the time's right, or maybe it's not for you, it can act negatively again, because these tools are neutral. um yeah, I can actually do that right now. I'll post a link to this trip report in the chat. um Here we go. You can read that as you will. This was the first 500 UG or microgram report. Uh, Krill's 314 or 3154 commented, "You can come to terms with insanity only when you're holding on to being sane. It becomes a problem." Yeah, well, yeah, there's a big question about what is sanity, anyways, because in my mind, society is insanity. So becoming sane is alienation, as Terence McKenna says. So it feels like it can feel at first that you're insane, but really our society is insane because it's very disharmonious with the nature of our reality. Um, Everything from like the current huge gender dispute to climate change to economics, all of these are in disharmony with what's really going on. And what's really going on is the real debate. But in terms of uh, insanity, as in not being able to care for yourself, um, that's a that's kind of a different deal. That's a mental illness. And in terms of like therapy and the circles of mental illness within those circles, we never say insanity or someone is crazy. There's specific mental disorders, and we just have to find what those disorders are so we can start to learn how these develop and like how to work around it. It's kind of like a blanket term to be like, oh, that guy's just crazy, or I've gone insane. It takes deeper analysis. Everything is connected says it's all a hallucination. And this is actually factually true. Everything that we're experiencing in this reality, everything you've ever experienced, every feeling, sensation, every visual experience, it's all been a product of our mind. And what our mind is still a mystery. Substance is still a mystery. Mind and substance is still a mystery. Uh, Krills 3154 says, "Yes, I agree. Only your own interpretation of saneness matters." Yeah, yeah. I think as long as what really matters is that you can still take care of yourself and you're not hurting others. And um, you know, if you like hang upside down on the chandelier, is that really insanity? That's sounds like fun to me. A lot of people like in the society, when they see people having fun, see adults having fun, they're like, "Oh man, those kids are crazy." I don't know. I've always been the oddball when in high school, and like everybody thought I was pretty weird, and I've always felt like I've had a different idea or conception of what reality is. Um, uh, I don't know if anybody's called me insane. Uh, oh, I didn't see this comment. Spy or Clubbered, it definitely can do more harm than good if the wrong person takes psychedelics. But there is no way to know if you are the wrong person until you take them. And that is true. I mean, to an extent, I think there are some red flags you can find out before to find out if you are the wrong type of person for these experiences, such as reckless, impulsive behavior, maybe. Um, uh, that doesn't mean you can't take any psychedelics. Just you need to take all these aspects of your personality into account. You also need to know, like, if you're on any medication, if you've like recently gotten off of medication. For example, if you're on antidepressants, that those are serotonergic, works on the serotonin receptors. Psychedelics also do that too. So if you do that at the same time, you can get serotonin syndrome. And if you're coming off of antidepressants, we really don't know how your serotonin system is affected. So we don't know how it will affect your experiences from then on. Um, I love you too, Spyorg, Clubbard. I also wanted to mention this too because to me, even 315 micrograms, his last dose, was really big. My highest dose I've ever taken of LSD has been about 150 micrograms. Um, and that was pretty wobbly and intense, and I was like on the verge of breakthrough. But that's just for me. Um, and I know there's other people who take like something like 1,000 mics, and they're like, "Oh man, barely felt anything, saw some colors," you know. And we really don't know why that is, of like how people's brains are different. Um, I I was thinking earlier today that if you had a rough childhood, you might have a less developed serotonin system because the serotonin receptors are like responsible for a lot of our like drives and feelings of happiness and content. And if people who are like thoroughly traumatized from childhood, they might have like their serotonin system might have developed very very differently. Um, and I can't say how that would affect psychedelics, but no doubt all these factors play a part in um, uh, whether or not it's really right for you. Also, you got to take into account like how long the experiences last and what kind of experience are you looking for? Because for LSD, taking those really high doses, they last a long time. Like it's like a 5 hour peak. That's a long time to hold on if you're having a bad trip, and you can't really talk yourself down from an LSD trip. I think you can take a benzo and come and like help yourself come down. I'm not entirely sure about that, but sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, oh yeah, how long the trip lasts should be taken into account because if you just want to see what the other side is like and you want to take the plunge, you probably would want to consider DMT or Salvia, and even if you have a rough trip on that, which I can't say it would be any better or worse than LSD, but at least it wouldn't last. You wouldn't be in that space for as long. Like you can have a total breakthrough for like the full 5 hours of an LSD trip, and like whenever every moment feels like eternity and time has no meaning. I would opt for the Band-Aid experience of I don't know. I was thinking Band-Aid because like it's just a quick over, but oh, got some more comments. Krills 3154. Yes, I agree. Oh yeah, I already said that. Spyor Clubbard says some people can slip into psychosis even off of 75 micrograms, and yes, that's very true. Especially if some people are not used to it, or if you had a more uptight uh, upbringing. uh, it would be harder to come to terms with the things that are happening. Even just something as simple as a table is warping on you can like really send somebody into a panic attack when you're not used to this kind of thing. I started doing psychedelics when I was 14, and so like I kind of like uh, built the doses a little bit higher each time, more or less. So I kind of got used to it, and I was also I was always defiant in the conceptions of the cultural norms when going through high school. So I was already into psychedelic music and like psychedelic themed things. So like I just thought stuff was really cool. But if you're like, somebody who's been just, sitting at home with your family watching normal movies all your life, and like you want to like take psychedelics for therapy, it might send you in a panic attack if you don't really know what to expect. um and on the other hand, aside from just like the slight hallucinations of warping, it opens more doors in your brain so that memories can start flooding in, and you can get sucked into some dark places if you have some really bad memories. Like uh, some memories can pop up that you've actually forgotten or your brain has purposely suppressed from you. And having that confrontation can also be panic inducing. Um, Holy Wolf says, "Hey, Heart, it's good to see you, Holy Wolf." Um, Benzodiazepines, Spire Clubbert says, can help reduce fear, but if it's a true horror trip, they can do as much as you'd like. Something like a IMH all AL do would be better. Um, I don't even know what that chemical is. Oh, Haldol. I haven't even heard of that, to be honest. Yes, Shota, I know it's you. It's good to see you. Uh, Intramuscular Haldol. Oh wow. Is that like a something you inject? Would you need a needle for that? Knocks you out through maybe CBD could help. That's true. CBD. mm, I don't know because it's different for everybody. Because I'm not entirely sure. I think it's THC that gives me anxiety, and then CBD takes it away. But it's kind of hard to know. I haven't actually taken the capsules of just pure CBD or pure THC yet, so I haven't really experienced them separately. I've taken indica and sativa, but um, it's a potent antipsychotic. Takes a while to kick in any other administration route. Okay. Intramuscular take works really quickly. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I get really nervous around needles, so I think I would like rather wait a while. But I don't know. It depends. Like if you're like like you said, Spyorg, if you're having a true horror trip, maybe the injection wouldn't be so bad, especially if somebody else was doing it for you. Moonglow says Haldol is really nasty though. I wouldn't take it. Haldol is very strong neuroleptic. Hmm. Only in extreme emergency would I use that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, I've only taken a benzodiazepine once, and it was like when I was having a really intense emotional time. I wasn't on any other substance, and I found it really helped level me out, and it really took down the panic and was able to calm down a bit. I've only done it the once because I only needed it, but it really helped. Yeah. Okay. Let's take this into another direction, or at least for now. I wanted to give out some shout outs to the psychedelic community YouTubers who these are some YouTubers that I think could use a little bit more attention because they're really awesome. Uh, these YouTubers are How to Rock Spirit or How to Rock Spirit. This is my friend Dustin Cormier from back from Whippy, Ontario. Um, and he talks a lot about astrology. If you're into that type of thing, this is a good psychedelic side to be on. And he's very open sexually and spiritually. a very spiritual side of it. Another YouTuber I'm a big fan of is The Night Dimension. We've already had, I mean, I joined in on his live chat last time, and so we're aware of each other. We're good friends. We might be doing a paired up live stream sometime. That'd be something cool to look forward to. But they talk about Salvia a lot as well. That's the point. Another one is TJ Travis. He does some really elegant, decadent films or documentaries on his psychedelic experiences, and yeah, they're really good. And then lastly, Alan Mazza is another YouTuber who like barely has any subscribers, but he's also my friend from back in Whitby, Ontario, and he's the more materialistic side of these things. He talks about dream yoga and meditation and stuff like that, but and he has the more materialistic view, but again, very psychedelic, and his lectures are pretty good. Yeah, so here are and then here are some leftist YouTubers that I really like. It's all mirrorized for me. I wonder if it's mirrorized for you. I'm sorry if it's mirrorized for you. Yeah, some. Yeah, it does. DJ definitely needs to be put on that DMT doc already. Spyorg says, if any of you don't have access to benzodiazepine in any case of a really bad trip, you can also use etizolam legally online in most places. Do not abuse them, save them only for emergencies. Yeah. I would say never abuse any drug. They're just not there for abuse, especially for psychedelics. We're trying to give psychedelics a good name. So it really, when you take a psychedelic trip, you do it for the entire community. That's you do it for yourself and for the community. We share our reports, and if you're abusing psychedelics, you're really giving them a bad name, and we need to have more people to give it a better reputation. I'm really happy about the Denver legalizing or decriminalizing psychedelic mushrooms. It's such a great move forward. I was so happy about that move forward, and then like literally a few days later, Alabama did that whole illegalizing or criminalizing abortion, which was like a huge step back. And man, I really feel that. Okay, thank you, Holly Wolf. You can see the right way around. Here's some leftist YouTubers who I really like as well. These leftist YouTubers are PhilosophyTube, Peter Coffin, ContraPoints, Thought Slime, and Zero Books. These are just a few that I could think of before I made this video, but yeah, those are some YouTubers that I'm a really big fan of. Yeah, I just wanted to give some shout outs, let you know where I'm at. The dirty South in America is like 50 years behind the rest of the world. Spyware Clubbard. Yeah. Yeah, I try to not to discriminate, but Alabama apparently has like, what was it, like the 50th in ranking of all the states of education in terms of education. So it's really sad. Yeah, of course. Koi's Frescoes channel? No, I haven't. I'm gonna write that down. I don't have an opinion on him, unfortunately. Never heard of him. Yeah, Koi Frescoes. Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't heard of him, but yeah. So we got a few things that we could talk about. Oh, got a question. Oh, Spyorg mentioned Dakota went, or typo won't, but yeah, Dakota of Earth, really great YouTuber. Alex Knight, what do you think about our modern times? I think artists can feel what happens behind the curtains of our reality. Um, Modern times is are very, very strange. I feel confident to say that these times that we're living in is the weirdest, strangest time in human history. Um, just because it seems like we're like on the brink of this huge technological revolution, and psychedelics are like revealing things about our minds and the nature of reality, which again they've only really been like deeply examined by Western society like about 100 years ago. So this is like very still new developments, and as artists, I think it's really important. Or sorry, yeah, I think it's really important for some artists who choose to explore these psychedelic dimensions, and in order to document these experiences and show how um, and just show the expanded view of our minds and what our minds are capable of. There's a lot of people in this world that won't ever do psychedelics just because of their careers, because of so many reasons. Um, I I actually came up with this title of psychonautophobia, and that's this innate fear I feel like almost everybody has. And what this fear is the fear of the breakthrough psychedelic experience. We get we get this kind of vertigo when we have the sensation of losing our body and memories. It's like standing at the edge before you dive off a cliff into the water or something like that. Um, because you really feel that risk of like putting it all on the line, even though uh, as far as DMT and Salvia goes, and psilocybin, they're completely physiologically safe. It's but the psychological effects can be traumatic, and again, that fear of like breaking our brains. Although I don't think it's highly likely that we will break our brains, especially if we take the right precautions in order to avoid that. Um, I can remember being in the Toys R Us parking lot when I was about 8 years old, and when my mom told me that Santa Claus didn't exist, I actually felt the whole world kind of shift a bit, kind of like rotate, and like that's like the same type of on a lesser scale. This is the same kind of experience of having like the rug pulled out onto you, like your preconceptions are challenged, and it's an overwhelming experience realizing that the world isn't the way you thought it was. So, and because of like how intense these experiences are, that's why I think it's important for artists to be actually take that plunge, and to bring back and into the collective these images of the transcendental experience. Yeah, I've heard of Dakota Wind, Holly Wolf, Shoda. Everything is connected. I recommend any of Ram Dass's stuff. Ram Dass is awesome. Um, we like it weird, so we chose to come here right now. You think I'm weird? Holly Wolf says, I'm very tempted to explore the psychedelic realm, but I actually do have a lot of fear based around it for multiple reasons. And a lot of these the fears, like other than the pure psychonautophobia, there are like legitimate things to be afraid about, like especially if you have anxiety disorders, like because it can treat anxiety, but it's also a stressor in and of itself. So you could also do the opposite. So you would really need to do it very intentionally, very specifically. Take a dose that you're comfortable with, maybe have a trip sitter who you really trust. Um, and again, like you, maybe it's just not for you. So like, but it's hard because I feel like there is this psychedelic imperative, especially in our times, to liberate our minds in order to free ourselves from these cultural assumptions. I saw a post that like really summed it up well. Like somebody was defending veganism, because at this time, making the change into veganism probably won't save the world. I mean, like, it is, it helps very marginally in terms of like reducing the meat production. Um, and like at best, like, it'd be really hard to turn everybody vegan. But the benefit of it is that you are taking the step back to change your own mind and your own lifestyle, which is huge. You're reclaiming a big chunk of or of choice in your life, which again, this is another reason why psychedelics are really important, or why there's a psychedelic imperative. But the psychedelic imperative doesn't apply to people who just can't take it, and we have to be understanding. Like, I get impulsive to like push psychedelics. I have to stop myself a lot because it's just not right for everybody, and as with this case that just happened earlier this week, um, we have to take this with great caution. Spyorg says, "Go slowly. If you do, don't rush your way into it. Wait until it feels right." Yeah, exactly. And this person that I was just talking about, who just recently died or passed, um, his first LSD dose was just last year, like November or December. It was 500 micrograms. That's a huge dose. Like, your reality is completely going to dissolve, and and the integration part is going to be really important after that. So, um, you might have that impulse to take psychedelics again to figure out what happened, and try to figure out what the experience is and fight your own fears. But really, like, you could just be doing even more damage and, like, re-traumatizing yourself, when you really need to take a few steps and integrate. Maybe like talk to other people in the psychedelic community, try to like build up your own theories and conceptions, see some therapists. This is a real problem that like a lot of therapists aren't really equipped to deal with this particular brand of trauma, of having your reality dissolved on LSD. Although there are some really great therapists, there's a lot of bad therapists. So you gotta, um, you know, really feel it out. If you ever go to counseling and get a therapist, which I recommend, like, everybody should really do. I really don't stigmatize therapy. It's good for everyone. Sometimes I'm in counseling right now, actually. And you can feel if that counselor is like receptive to what you're saying, is giving you positive feelings and stuff like that. If you're getting bad vibes from your therapist, just seek another one. There's lots of them out there, good ones and bad ones. And a good one will probably be able to help you with this brand of trauma. Um, yes, you are wording it just right, Carl. Cruz Keen says, "Thank you." Yes, be safe is very important. Holly Will says, "I have DP/DR, depersonalization, eh, depersonalization, and derealization regularly from smoking years ago. Smoking what? And I don't know why, but I fear the psychological effects. I know it isn't the substance itself, but it's the fear, anticipation of something bad." Yeah, and like, honestly, for a lot of people, the build up into the psychedelic experience is the most scary part, because you feel it happening and there's that huge anticipation. I actually felt it doing this live stream, like the 10 minutes before this video started. I was like, getting nervous. But as somebody gave me really good advice last time I was doing a live stream, and they said, "Don't be nervous." So I'm taking that advice. Anyways, um, Holly Wolf continues, "I have a lot of dissociation daily, and even just smoking weed sometimes make me anxious, and it's kind of hit or miss." Yeah, weed is through the cannabinoid system. It is a different system, but again, if it's just like the alteration in your mind state and the buildup, uh, that's definitely anxiety producing for most, even for neurotypical people. It's very anxiety producing. Spyorg says, "It can bring on extreme depersonalization." I'm not going to be able to say that word very fluently. Depersonalization and derealization when you get into psychedelics. Go so slowly if you do try, but I can't recommend it. Try grounding yourself however way you can. Yeah, and I agree. Stay away from the weed or any stimulating drugs until you get your feet back on the ground. That might be a good choice too. Once life loses its real, getting it back can be nearly impossible. Bioric, have you experienced this? Holy Wolf says, I mean, even when I've felt stable and relatively okay, I've had pretty bad times when smoking, and it's almost like it sets me back in progress sometimes. It's true. But sometimes it's okay. Yeah. Carl says MAPS, multiple multiple disciplinary association of psychedelic substances, I believe, or psychedelic studies, I can't remember, has a list of therapists that specialize on psychedelia. Oh, that's a great resource. Thank you so much for saying that, Carl. I'm not sure about how big that um, list would be, because I do think it's still pretty niche. I mean, I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the healthcare here is really bad. Like, I know a lot of people with BPD and like PTSD who like simply cannot get a therapist just because of the circumstances here in this location. So I mean, I think Skype you can do Skype therapy too, and maybe even like some Reddit um, pages too. We love you, and you and are all part of the same molecule soup. Don't fear us. Yes, that is very true. We are all one. In fact, there's one of the great illusory aspects of reality is that it's all illusory. That there's distinctions between things. Everything is actually the same thing. It's through fractal nature that there begins to be distinctions between things, but these are just illusory. Everything is fundamentally the same thing, and fundamentally, what reality is information, um, and receivers of that information. Um, whether or not the atoms are spinning up or down, I believe it's the protons, um, will determine, and then like in clusters of up or down spins, that's what builds up reality. That's basically a binary on off, and there you go. You get enough of those. I'm talking trillions. Holly Wolf says, it was just from smoking weed, but I also had underlying mental illness that had surfaced yet, and in ways that kind of just sitting there under the surface, and it kind of nudged it to come out. Yeah, I haven't heard it with a DP before you, Holly Wolf, but I've heard it with schizophrenia, and I think it's the stressor, or like having the altered state of mind that like a lot of people have the misconception that marijuana causes these mental illnesses when really these are mental illnesses were there dormant, and it just needs some sort of stressor or some kind of alteration in mind of in order to relinquish, or like not relinquish, unleash these, or I don't even know if that's the right way to phrase it, but basically have these illnesses that were there dormant to come about. And it's, you can't really say whether or not it would have came out if it wasn't for weed. If it wasn't weed, it could have been something else. That's why a lot of people have the pre, I get, would you call that a precondition? Have the precondition for say schizophrenia, but what can bring it out? It could just be something as simple as pot, or it can be a trauma, or multiple traumas, and then that's when the schizophrenia comes about. Um, so it's not that like if you have schizophrenia you shouldn't do psychedelics. It's you should be definitely more cautious when it comes to it. I know a few people that are schizophrenic and do psychedelics, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they have had schizophrenia beforehand. Um, yeah. Maybe if you have somebody there to ground you. I'm trying to like think of like if you have a DP or DR and you want to do a psychedelic trip. If you had somebody like sitting there that knew they were just there for you to keep you um, feeling safe, somebody you know that makes you feel really safe, and you had a very good environment, and you just tried even maybe even less than a gram, just to start feeling the sensations of it and kind of like build up into it a bit. Um, I would recommend psilocybin. Personally, I felt that like was really good for me. Although a lot of people have trouble with the tastes. You can get it in capsules, which is basically just powderized shroom, and then they like condense it really hard. You still chew it up, um, and I always like leave it in your mouth, but I haven't actually found out if it even is absorbed through the salivary glands at all. But you might be able just to swallow it and might not matter much at all. Um, but yeah, because LSD, it's harder to. I know there's microdosing, but like you would really have to like get a a scalpel or something, like cut off a corner of your tab. It's kind of it takes more precision. Um, and just mushrooms are just so natural. I just love it so much. I'm sorry. um, Salvia is a disassociative, so that it might I could see how that might be able to get you to better terms with your DP or DR possibly. Um, there's this method I'm gonna try next time I get Salvia. It's because I always thought that you had to do what the Terrence McKenna method of doing DMT, which is like three big hits, and then you go into the Salvia experience, and you have to hit it really hard and fucking like kicks you in the face. Um, but apparently that's not a really good way to do it, and you can just smoke like two flakes at a time, load it up again, and just keep loading it, have somebody passing it back and forth to you, and you can ease into the experience. And apparently the dysphoric feelings of being flattened and being disassociated actually becomes starting to feel pleasurable. And yeah, the kappa opioid system is actually what is responsible for a lot of our dysphoric, unpleasant feelings, such as stress and sadness and pain, and disassociation. And so, like having a highly selective kappa opioid agonist might improve that relationship, or might even cure it in some cases, because the spirit of salvia seems to have healing properties, but only specifically to people who respect her. I know a lot of people come out of salvia traumatized, and like salvia does punish you if you just approach her recklessly and without respect. And you can't hide when it comes to a spirit being introduced into your brain. I was considering starting with mushies, maybe. Yeah, it'd probably be the best way. If you have trouble chewing, tea works. You can do tea, and just put honey in it. Yeah. Uh, start with a half a gram, if not less. But yeah, that's pretty good advice. Is like again, getting used to sensations before actually having any psychological trip. Um, Spyorg then goes on to say, I wonder how MDMA would work for DPDR. Yeah, I should look into that. I know it's good in therapy because it helps you be able to open up and talk about your traumas, where usually these memories, they're barbed. When you approach these memories, it fucking hurts and it pushes you away. And so you can't really talk about them, and your brain comes up with all these different coping mechanisms to steer away from these panic-inducing memories. MDMA allows people to be more accepting and embrace these aspects. You should honestly, as if anybody hasn't listened to these like samples of these like therapy sessions with MDMA, it's actually beautiful to hear people being able to talk about their trauma and like accept themselves and start thinking about it, and like being able to approach it and like question and like seeing the effects it had on themselves. But like in a sober mindset, you literally can't, because of the coping mechanisms that like protect you from these terrible experiences. I'm not sure how it would help with DP or DR. It really depends, I guess. Like, if you have a trauma, and what exactly are you trying to get out of these experiences. For me, mushrooms have been beneficial for me, in terms of being able to accept myself and really hone in on my subconscious, and like who I really felt like I was outside of societal pressures. And it also really helped me bond with nature. Taking mushrooms inside your house, or sorry, for me, taking mushrooms inside of my house was not as therapeutic as taking it out in nature. But I was confident in nature. I wasn't really afraid. I know a lot of, like, for example, if you are a female, you could feel a lot more vulnerable being outdoors in public, and especially intoxicated on mushrooms. Um, so maybe if you had a trip sitter, but like the loving embrace of nature really is vivified through mushrooms. They're doing a lot of these therapies, and like they're having great results, but they're doing it in a therapy room, and they make it all like really comfy and like that, and that's really good, especially if you're doing like really deep trips. But I would really like to see some outdoor psychedelic therapy of like being able to bond back with nature, because I think this is a big part of our current neurosis of these modern times, is that we're really isolated from nature. Even people out in the country, they need like ATVs and stuff like that to like really like to like spark their dopamine, to like make them feel more content with their surroundings, because nature is mute to humans if we don't have the chemicals to allow us to communicate with it. Nature like totally opens up when under the influence of psilocybin. But when nature is mute and you've grown up in the country, it just seems so dull. It's boring as fuck. Okay, I've been missing out some of these comments. Holy Wolf says, "Nah, it's not the marijuana that does it. It definitely is if you have a predisposition to certain mental illnesses, etc." Yeah, agreed. Spyorg says, "Never mind, MDMA will probably only make it worse." Spyorg then goes on to say, "Liquid solutions are easier for microdosing if you can do some of the math." Yeah, maybe. I also find MDMA expensive. I've only done it 3 times and haven't really gotten off on it well. I felt a little bit, but like, to be honest, for me, it wasn't really good. Again, it would be different, like, because I'm already a fairly happy person. I mean, I get depressive, but I'm fairly happy most of the time. So I think, uh, uh, sorry, Kit Larson says hi, B. Hi, B. Kit Larson's my primary partner. I love you. Thank you for dropping by. What was I saying? um, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was saying because my B showed up. Uh, yeah. Oh yeah, my MDMA experiences. If you're having a harder time feeling happy, MDMA could be a good way to remind yourself of like that happiness feeling. I remember coming off of I forget, some anesthetic, or maybe it was morphine or something, coming back from after I got my wisdom teeth taken out. And at the time, I was very depressed. And like when I woke up after coming out from the anesthetic, I was super, super happy. And I never felt the need to do it, any anesthetics again. But it was such a great reminder of what that feeling felt like, because it's been so long since I felt that joy. Felt that joy. So in that way, MDMA can help if you're depressive. I'm not sure about DP or DR. Um, uh, GJ says LSD, volumetric microdosing. Take, for example, 100 microgram tab, put it in 100 milliliter solvent. 10 milliliters equals 10 micrograms. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. I have seen. I haven't really looked deeply into microdosing, uh, but apparently you could just put it into um, that's a solvent. I'm not sure what the solvent would be, but then you can measure the liquid and like have that, and that's easier to measure. On these tabs, it's really hard because even if you get a sheet of apparently all the tabs on it is supposed to be 100 micrograms. Say this is a sheet and it's like totally gridded. The way they dip it and like hang it to dry, usually the tabs at the bottom actually do have higher doses than the ones at the top. And not only that, the way it dries all differently. So you can never be 100% accurate when it comes to LSD. Um, that's one of the things I find difficult about it. But that's also true with mushrooms. You know, people usually say like a 1 gram, 2 gram that's a pretty good dose for experiencing threshold effects. However, if you get really strong mushrooms, 2 grams can feel like fucking 5 grams. And or vice versa, you can take 5 grams and it could feel like 0.5 grams just because of the psilocybin content in that mushroom. If you know the batch, it's a little easier, and you never really need to be that accurate. I don't know. I might take that. I think I'll take that back. It's hard. It's just hard to dose these things. They are really hard. Spyorg says Salvia gave me extreme DPDR years ago. Yeah, especially. Yeah, I would not doubt that. After heavy use of it, I wouldn't recommend it if you already have it. Yeah, I'm curious to like if you ease into it though. Maybe type that into Google DPDR or Salvia, see if anybody has been helped in the past. Otherwise, yeah, it probably wouldn't be the best. I love Salvia so much now. It is one of my favorites by org. Yeah, Salvia is really awesome, and it's just such a quick access into the breakthrough experience that I'm talking about. Um, it's powerful and so unique. Lemon tech tea is really tasty for psilocybin. Okay, yeah. Lemon could mask the taste of it too, because mushrooms or psilocybin is super bitter. It's super bitter. I mean, you might. Some people like the taste, but a lot of people, in my experience, a lot of people I've met hate the taste of psilocybin, and it can also make you sick. So, like, if you're like wanting to feel the effects, and you just want to feel the effects, but like it's makes you feel so gross in your tummy, even though it's not toxic. Like again, it makes you feel gross in your tummy. So that can not help when you're trying to like use it for therapy, but you have to deal with stomach pains. Um, have I listened to anything by Alan Watts? I'm actually a big fan of Alan Watts. He's really awesome. He's was actually really good for helping me in my artistic um, practice. That whole thing of letting nature do its work. You can row your boat really hard and like put all that effort in, but really just building up a sail and like using the wind. You can letting nature work with you for you is much better than working against it and using all that muscle and tension. It's like trying to like relax and just let things happen. If it's it really takes a lot of pressure off artistic practices, I find. But yeah, in so many different ways, Alan Watts is awesome. Salvia and DMT are completely different. Jake Fiasco says Salvia versus DMT, which Spyorg replies Salvia and DMT are extremely different, but both take you to another realm. Yes, Salvia and DMT are very similar in the sense that they're both breakthrough psychedelics. Like they really break you through easily, break through into the other plane that we're talking about and other realms. But they are completely different characters. They don't touch the same neurosystems whatsoever, which is very fucking bizarre. All these theories that DMT is the key and everything. How do you explain Salvia? Salvia doesn't touch any of the serotonin receptors. So there's definitely more to it. Both of these chemicals work completely different ways, and have different characters, but they still break you through into a huge psychedelic experience. Jake Fiasco says, I've done both, or I know I've done both. I haven't broken through on DMT though yet. How's the experience? Oh man, breaking through on the DMT experience is just so astonishing. The on Salvia, it's more like terror and and dissociation when you like do the like really hard breakthrough. I'm talking about smoking in this case, smoking Salvia versus smoking DMT. But smoking DMT is more astonishing and euphoric. It's like, but extremely euphoric. Like for me, like I was like gripping my bed because it felt so good. It's like almost it's like an orgasm while meeting aliens in a different realm, and there's so much to process. It's so beautiful and astonishing, but yet terrifying in that same sense. Um, but yeah, like for me, it wasn't like I didn't like blast off and break through when I did DMT. I was kind of like it felt like I was just kind of like gently lifted over a wall. I was just like kind of like lifted right out. But although I never maybe for my brain I have a brief period of amnesia when I break through, because a lot of people describe even on Salvia like the breakthrough part is like really dramatic. Like either they're like ripped from the body and like flown up 20 feet up into the air or 20 yards up into the air, or like they're like taken onto this train and it's really dramatic. For me, when I broke through on Salvia, I just kind of like emerge into this world and like trying to like recollect my thoughts of like what the hell was going on. Holly Wolf then goes on to say, I do have quite a bit of trauma, honestly. So that's one thing that I would like to work on, as well as I'm also looking to kind of be able to explore and see myself outside of societal view also. Yeah, and because of this, I would say the lighter doses of Salvia would be better than just going for the breakthrough experience, because there's a lot to integrate into through the breakthrough experience. It's like, because you hear about like, oh, you break into another world and see aliens, we kind of get this sense that it's not that big of a deal, or like maybe it's not as intense, like, you know, like, okay, I think I'll be able to handle it. It's super intense, even if you're used to it. There's nobody that like chillax their way into that space. It's really dramatic. And so like, but then on the other side of the spectrum, just taking low doses of mushrooms, it's it's not like breaking through into another plane whatsoever. It's just like doors start opening up in your mind, and like, you know, you start to see things in a new light. It's very loving, again, because it's serotonergic. It feels very loving. My first mushroom experience, I know I did a video about this, but it was 1.5 grams of like just powdery stuff, and it wasn't very intense at all, and I didn't even visually hallucinate very much. But what did happen was this psychic connection to a tree. And I was in a forest. There's a lot of trees around. This one tree just literally like stood out to me and like pulled me in. And like it was like I was like kind of being sucked into the bark, and it was like this beautiful symphony of emotion that was flooding through me. Like maybe the mushrooms was gonna give me these feelings anyways, and like the tree was just this vessel. But like I've never had nature open up to me like that before, and that was very therapeutic to feel that there was life beyond um just the human experience, that like the life is conscious, and that, you know, like, I don't know, it, I had such joy seeing this tree. Like I can't explain it. It was so beautiful. I mean, I've had some darker trips. I've noticed the trips where it's been darker has been when I've like just isolated into my own mind. But like when I've had um, nature around me, it like really helped externalize me, and like it was more of a circuit, you know. Um, Mushrooms kind of have this similar effects of MDMA, as in the sense that it allows you to approach your traumas, or like in a kind of new light, and be more accepting of it. Um, but yeah, doing it in light doses would be the best way to find out if it's the type of experience that will be good for you, or if it is going to be beneficial. Um, yeah. Uh, Jake Fiasco says, has anyone else met the toy people on Salvia. I always go back, and every time I've done Salvia, I've definitely seen the little people. They didn't seem like toys to me. The depictions of that Salvia droid has produced, they've like been a lot of toys and stuff like that. This is the theme of childhood, which Salvia really plays upon. I think DMT does too a bit. Well, honestly, I think all psychedelics do. They our childhood was our fundamental experience when our brain was developing. It was the first things that our brain, when it was growing, we were children, so obviously it's the fundamental. Um, but psychedelics, by opening these doors, I think it brings you back to these and like extreme nostalgia, feelings of being a child again, feeling that childhood joy. Um, yeah, and so there is that, and I think when we're growing older and getting into adulthood, we a lot of those old neural pathways are kind of suppressed. We don't have that same childlike wonder anymore, and but they're still there. They're just suppressed because we need our mature adult functions in order to survive at this time. I mean, we still have like a lot of child impulses, but the psychedelics really like enhance that. Anyways, back to Salvia. Um, in my experience, I felt like I was literally a baby again. Like it was like seeing the world again, but like not just like being born again, but like actually how I felt being back in the townhouse, being back in the crib, and like I almost felt like that reality was there. Like maybe even before I was born. And like having those receptors and those memories, those feelings and sensations of our childhood being brought up, um, having that as a sensory input in our brains can interpret what's going on. Uh, and like so, like when we have like childhood streams coming in, of those neurons are being activated, our brains can interpret that as toys, as um, there being an adult figure, that there's little children around. This even the circus is kind of like that too, and there's a few other cases, playground slides. All these memories are being conjured up too, and therefore that could help um, be our those hallucinations could be our brains interpreting, having those childlike presences again. But there is some other source, I feel like, within Salvia that kind of like, because like for me, like when I saw all these little interbeings, these little beings everywhere, all even though they felt alien, I felt like I had some connection to them. Like those were t-shirts I was into. That was, like these are like on suburban streets that like I grew up in. So it's like Salvia takes our psyche and like uses it as a vehicle and like morphs it and transforms it. It's like a merging of spirit. It's like the Salvia spirit meets your childhood and like fucks it up. Uh, it's a merging experience. I don't feel like I'm kind of like in this in between. I don't see this completely materialistically that like it's all just like um it's just your brain. It's your brain and something else having this uh kind of merging. I don't know if that made any sense. Hopefully it did. um uh I'll go back a bit. Um Not an uncommon experience. Oh, I missed a bunch. Um like Lego people, yes, yes. Lego is another thing that's happens a lot on Salvia. Um Jake Fiasco says, yes, when I was on it, they took me apart like Lego and back together, and the whole world was made up of yellow and red bricks. Yeah, yeah. The creature I saw too was kind of like blocky, and there's another archetype too. A lot of people get like dismembered and like kind of put back together and like kind of rearranged, and that sensation of like being broken down and built again. Um, and then Legos kind of being a good symbolism for that, for when our brain is trying to interpret what the hell is going on. They were singing crazy nursery rhymes and me being trapped forever. Yeah, that's the other thing, that their chants are very childlike too. I didn't get to hear the chants on Salvia, like even though they were singing and stomping and like had that beat. There was the Salvia shaman that had his trip report. It was called Nursery Rhymes, and they had this like na 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 kind of vibe. They're saying ha ha, we won't let you go. Ha ha, we won't let you go. And like these like little like rhymes, and like they're very childish, and they always, and this chanting. I and oddly enough, like as different as Salvia and DMT are, I had the same chanting and these like, again, fragmentations of the self, these all these little interbeings. Um, so what is it in our psyche that like when we take these psychedelics, again, DMT and Salvia are completely different neural paths. How is it that they break apart our psyche into like um seemingly others, these others singing back to you, and you can hear them? On DMT they're singing you always knew just what to do, you are us and we are you. um and I don't know if I fully believe that, because like there's other reports where apparently people ask the beings like, are you me? And they were like, no, no, no. Maybe they were just saying, no, 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 don't ask that question. But to me, they just saying, they're like, yes, we are you, la 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 la. And they're like these children, I don't know, like maybe they are parts. If anybody's looked into DID, dissociative identity disorder, um they experience a specific type of mental disorder. Um, I think largely it's caused by trauma, and as far as I know, I don't know anybody that has DID without trauma. But then again, like, man, everybody has trauma. Um, but like experience like very hard trauma, and their self is broken into many cells where, you know, you're not just one person. Like on the surface, like for example, if it was me, I'm just Dylan, you know, I'm Dylan Behan. But in my mind, I actually have maybe a specific number or numeral um, parts where, like, no, this is John, this is Jake, this is so and so, and this one, this part is a little girl, this part is like a 40-year-old German man. Like it's not even it's very real. It's and people experiences these switches and personalities, and like, so like what this says to me is that like it's very likely that we're not just one person, but in fact like an orchestra or a symphony of people, and we just kind of experience or have the sensation that it's just one person, that we're just one person having an experience and like having making all these decisions, but in reality it's a lot of different people. um well, I don't know. That was a long-winded explanation. I don't really know. We're these are all just contemplations. I really don't know how these things really work. I don't want to give off the impression like I know better than anybody else. And Spyoric Clubbard says, not an uncommon experience with Salvia. That's very true. Jake Fiasco, really? Have you met them? Do you know why they exist? Oh man, I have no idea why they exist. Spyoric Clubbard then says, no clue anything about who, what, or why anything is in Salvia land. But yeah, I've met them. Jake Yasko says, that's crazy. Mind elaborating on your experience. I know my friends did it and have never seen them. Maybe they only come about for specific people. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. It's interesting that some archetypes are very privy to certain people. I don't know if that's the right word, are very prone to certain people. For example, some people will reliably have the experience of turning into inanimate objects on Salvia, and they'll be like, okay, I guess I'll try it again. I hope I don't become an animate object, and they'll become a couch again or something. Um, and then other people can experience all these different archetypes, but then other people only experience the little people every time reliably. And it's interesting, like again, like how our brains are are wired differently, or how they interpret this new sensory data, or like having this very specific system, the KO system, agonize. Uh, why is it that some people reliably get the beings and then other people will never experience it? I think Hamilton Morris was talking about salvia. He loves salvia, but as far as I know, he's never had another entity contact. I don't even think he's on other psychedelics. As far as I've like read and heard about him, he's never actually had any other entity contact, um, which is kind of sad. You know, it's like that's one of the great psychedelic experiences, is having that experience of uh, seeing or like experiencing another being that is allegedly within the confines of your mind. Sorry, I'm getting some notifications. Um, and that's like such a great boundary to dissolve, to like whether or not they are you or not. I just feel bad for the people that like can take all these big psychedelic doses and then never experience anybody. Um, uh, yeah, in the DMT book, I got it right here. Might as well show it. Flaunt it a bit. In the DMT book by Dr. Rich Strassman, there is a trip report in here where people break through and don't encounter entities. There's this one guy that woke up into this alien apartment. It was just an apartment. It was very futuristic. It was definitely different than a human apartment, but it was clearly an apartment of some sort. And that was the entire experience. And it's just like, okay, well, that was something. You know, it's kind of lame. Anyways, Holly Wolf, will you be posting this after? I'd love to watch it back again. Oh, yeah, this stream is automatically posted to my channel. I was considering if there's some good tidbits, I might edit this video and repost it in smaller chunks on like if there's any specific thing I've talked about that is interesting, but maybe not. But either way, the stream will all be on YouTube. Spyr Clubbert then says, I'm in a very loving psychedelic discussions group, public group on the app Kick. Oh, app Kick. Okay. Is it okay if I give my username for anyone who would like to join it? We don't allow selling trading things. Yeah, absolutely. Kick sounds really awesome. Maybe I should even download that app and we can continue these conversations. Yeah, because again, psychedelics are in this bubble right now. Most people, psychedelic people, are still in the closet. I'm like super proud of trans people and any sexual deviants, all the gays, because the movement is coming more and more out of the closet, and it's beautiful. I think psychedelic people need to start doing that too, because we are like are a marginalized group as well. I know there's a lot of differences, but essentially we're still blacklisted from society, and we need to like really present ourselves. That's the only Okay, it's not the only reason, but it's a large reason why I decided to be in the fine arts as opposed to just like making art on my own, is because I want to introduce psychedelics to people who normally wouldn't be a part of this group. You know, I want to like expand this bubble and like, you know, break out of this and this idea that psychedelics are a thing over there for some like, you know, occult people or something like that. But you know, a very fringe topic, but really has no relevance to society. It has great relevance to society and to the individual. Psychedelics should need to be integrated into the broader spectrum. The psychedelic bubble needs to be broken. And that is the psychedelic imperative. Thank you. So yeah, send me that Kick thing, that Kick app, and we will kick off a conversation. I've had hundreds of Salvia trips. We could talk for months about them. That's awesome. Yeah, I can talk about Salvia all damn day. Yeah, I'm already at 100 or an hour and 15 minutes right now. I think I'm gonna have this live stream a little bit longer just because it's kind of directionless. And I started it earlier, so I feel better. I wanted to say last live stream, I smoked weed beforehand because I had anxiety, and I started it pretty late. I think it was like 8 or 9 o'clock. So by the end of it, I was like burning out, and I was super tired. And it was pretty visible. I started like losing my train of thoughts and like fucking up. I was like, what the fuck, my mistake. So yeah, I got a lot more energy right now. In other words, um, Jake Fiasco says, I merge into a world 2 on Salvia instead of blasting off. Yeah. Um, yeah, I didn't merge into the world. It was more like emerged, like, or it's kind of woke up. I was like in the middle of taking my third hit and just like kind of blacked out. And then I just started fading into that other world. Spy or Clubber, I often unzip or roll into Salvia land, but it's always a bit different every time. Yeah, that's another clear archetype. My next Salvia archetypes video, I've been writing the script for forever, is going to be dealing with the zipper, because that feeling, both unzipping and rolling, is uh, I think it's evidence for, or evidence and proof for the second dimension being 2D. There's this really interesting book here called Flatland, if anybody's ever heard of it. This is a fictional tale, but this is talking about kind of the same thing. That we experience the third dimension, that like, that there is like 3D depth to everything, but in reality, and I think this is what Salvia shows us, is that everything is actually completely flat. The third dimension is an illusion, and I think it does this by like, okay, say it's flat. Or sorry, maybe I can use a better example. Yeah. So say this is the planet, or this is reality. It's totally flat. We're on a flat sheet. But when we regularly experience reality, it's kind of wrapped around itself like infinitely. It's like a huge infinite circle, or it's called a dimensional manifold. Again, this is just a theory. And so we have this experience of feeling like there is depth when it's actually just either like a wrapped around piece of paper. Sorry, I'm crumbling this so much. It's either a wrapped around piece of paper, or it's like a book. It's like a stack of 3D plane or 2D planes that make up a three-dimensional experience. And so when we have the Salvia experience, reality is just kind of rolled right up, or what's on here? Nothing important. Or it's just kind of unzipped. But yeah, again, just exposing the two-dimensional reality of our situation, or two-dimensional nature of our reality. I've seen the zip as well, super cool, but I've never experienced the wheel. At least I don't remember. Yeah, the wheel is like the next step. The wheel is basically comprised or composed of all these books. It's like first the zipper, or like being rolled up. It's like one page, being one page, but then the frames of time, and then you can see, like, when you get a bunch of pages, then you see the book, and then if you zoom out more, you see the book is attached to the wheel. So, or at least that's what I've gathered from these trip reports. I haven't actually experienced that. I've experienced the frames to some extent. Would you say chewing salvia and ayahuasca, though different, kind of have the same level of intensity? I'm not sure. It's in the sense of like smoking it, either DMT or salvia through the lungs, it reaches your brain much faster and it is much more intense. Um, and because it goes to your brain faster, and your brain is able to deal with it faster, having it through your stomach or your salivary glands, uh, it disperses more. It's more drawn out as it disperses, so it doesn't just rush and flood your brain. It comes about slower, and therefore it is more gentle. Although I think the salivary, I'm not entirely sure if this is the reason, but through the salivary glands, it seems to hit your brain faster than the stomach. This isn't very scientific though, but I know for a fact that chewed salvia tends to last a lot briefer than ayahuasca. I mean, this is totally variant, but typically chewed salvia lasts 40 minutes to an hour, and ayahuasca experiences can last like hours and hours and hours. But that's just typically normally. Other times, people, I think it was Michael Pollan that was commenting his ayahuasca experience for whatever reason only lasted an hour, and he was sober. But and it was fairly intense, but he was sober in an hour. And then Hamilton Morris, he did chewed salvia, and it lasted 4 hours. So like that just goes to show like how variant these things can be. Um, and it's hard to say or what's more intense. Again, it really depends on your dose, because I'm sure like one could be more intense than the other depending on the dose. And yeah. Spyorg says any psychedelic or dissociative can have equal strength if you push the dosage enough. Yeah, exactly. Um, Spyorg then says, I've had hours long breakthroughs of LSD where it was just like DMT realms. Yeah, I've had that too. I know DMT is different than LSD, even though they're still serotonergic. But I don't know. Like I felt for whatever reason, I felt like LSD was more similar to DMT, the sensations of DMT than mushrooms were, even though all three of them are serotonergic. I don't know why that is, and that's just in my limited experience. Um, James Jake Fiasco says, "Do you guys think that psychedelics are a gate to something deeper, or just in our head?" Um, I do think they're a gate to something deeper, but again, this is just an opinion. Um, if you're materialists, you would say that consciousness is an epiphenomenon, or as a secondary phenomenon to material reality. But there's on the other side of the coin, you can equally see that everything you've ever experienced was just in the confines of your brain. So you really don't know if your mind is fundamental or if it's reality that's fundamental. I've been looking into these dimensions and the um, quantum physics. And the word quantum, what it means is the shortest distance possible from one thing to another. And because of quantum entanglement, which is that one atom can be entangled with another atom from anywhere else in the universe, and they will interact instantaneously throughout any distance, which again, to me, implies that all distance is actually just an illusion, that they are touching. Like everything is actually on top of one another, even though it seems like I could be on the other side of the country, but in the quantum realm, everything is just one thing. All distance is actually an illusion. And I believe, because I've been also looking into Stuart Hameroff's and who's that other guy who's working with Sir Roger Penrose, which is another really great scientist who was helping Stephen Hawking on the black hole theories. And Stuart Hameroff is an anesthesiologist, and they've been linking up and trying to create a quantum consciousness theory, and trying to say that, because materialists generally are trying to say that consciousness is an emergent quality from having enough neurons, that the more neurons you have, then it generates this experience of consciousness or awareness. But that doesn't really make sense, seeing how there are animals with bigger brains but seemingly less intelligence. And it doesn't really make sense, because that's also the way they think AI is going to be able to become conscious, that you just reach a certain amount of bits and then all of a sudden it'll be conscious. But what Sir Hameroff is and Sir Roger Penrose is proposing is that consciousness is actually deeper than that. It doesn't happen. It's not an emergent quality from all these neurons, but it's actually intrinsic in all these neurons and these things called microtubules. And they're at the end of dendrites, I believe. I'm not 100% on this, but basically, and these microtubules, that they're made out of these protein structures, which would put consciousness on the quantum realm. And if our consciousness is on the quantum realm, then our minds would operate under the the physics of quantum physics, and then that's when backwards time is possible. Quantum entanglement is possible. Quantum decoherence and coherence. It's really interesting stuff. So I really don't believe that anybody can concretely say like, no, it's all within the confines of your mind. And until we get some like better brain scans or something like that, we can find out what's really going on. We got some good brain scans about LSD and mushrooms, but like not high dose DMT and Salvia as much as I know. I'd really like to see like the activity of the brain, but in terms of mushrooms, it seems to shut down more things. LSD creates hyperconnectivity. Mushrooms actually does the opposite and like shuts down a lot of these pathways. And the fact that we're having a more and more conscious and intense experience once these things are shut down, especially when it comes to the default mode network in the brain, I think is really good evidence that we aren't just our brains; that our brains are all of our brains are connected through in the quantum realm, and that like there really isn't any space between us. That like all consciousness is just like one thing, and all reality is being projected from that. But that's just this is a developing theory. I don't know, but yeah, I definitely think it's deeper than just in our head. And I think a lot of things are in our heads because especially like when we're able to relive memories with like intense clarity, I think that's probably like existing in some neuron somewhere, or some set of neurons somewhere, and we're finally being able to access that. But and our consciousness is projected into that stream. Yeah. Holly Wolf. Oh wow! Once when I smoked a lot of gravity bongs, I don't know if it was just a very large amount smoked in a very short amount of time, or maybe um, oh, shot the heck off it. Um, yeah, sorry, my scrolling went all jerky there. Yeah, here it is. Uh, or maybe it was laced with something I don't know. Uh, I felt like a tree. Yeah, that's a Salvia archetype there. Like people have become a tree, um, and these could just be like, yeah, it could be one that our brain forms our idea of a tree, and that this drug experience shuts down other parts of the brain and like makes you feel like you are that tree and like loses your ego. It could be that, or it could be again that like all consciousness is one thing, and we actually are able to experience other lifetimes. I think that's more likely, especially when you look into the wheel, that all of our consciousnesses are connected fundamentally. And this was also an indigenous intuition, which was, and we all know they had a lot of visionary experiences, through uh, either through drugs or psychedelics, or through extreme deprivation or exhaustion. You know, vision quests in the forest, starving yourself, or dancing yourself to exhaustion. Psychedelic experiences can be experienced multiple different ways. Spyark says, "I'm certain now that those realms and entities are as real as our world." Yeah, um, I think most people that do it enough end up saying that. The the question of whether or not they're real kind of gets becomes mute. They are. Um, I would definitely argue they are. I'm just trying to stay like. Mm, I just don't want to be so closed off to the ideas. Kind of like what Terence McKenna says. Like if you start believing something, then it stops you from believing its opposite. So I try to think about the opposite. What if, maybe it is all materialistic, maybe it all is in the brain. I'm very skeptical of that, to be honest, though. I'm idealist leaning in terms of the mind body problem. I'm really into panpsychism. Look into that, panpsychism. uh Holly Wolf says, or like it was almost like my hands were roots. And I was sitting on a staircase, and it's like my hands were rooting into the stairs. Yeah, that's a psychedelic experience. You can have a psychedelic experience not on psychedelics. Like you can have a psychedelic experience on weed, especially edibles too, and gravity bongs. Um, but you can have psychedelic experiences naturally, or I mean, it's all natural without introducing any new chemicals. Some people um, are more prone to transcendental experiences. I have this one friend who can easily have out of body experiences. Just like they can't even meditate, but they'll end up having an out of body experience, and they might be dealing with DP or DR too. Like DP and DR are kind of psychedelic experiences as well, not pleasant ones though. um, Weed is incredibly psychedelic in large doses. Yeah, I agree. You can even break through if you take enough weed. Yeah, I agree. For me, I can't smoke enough weed to make me break through, but I wouldn't doubt if I took edibles that I could. I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's pretty intense. James Fiasco, I've had some crazy weed experiences too. Yeah, me too. When I first started taking weed, when I first started developing my cannabinoid receptors, uh, it was very psychedelic. I would have massive time distortions, laughing my ass off, weird sensations, insights. Yeah, it was really, really trippy. I also heard voices one time, just the once. Other than that, I've never really heard voices outside of psychedelic experiences. As well as I was just in this like expansive space out in the space. And it was like there were certain feelings, something that kept going on a loop, and I felt like honestly that was forever. Yeah, that's another indication that our normal experience of time is actually just maintained by metabolism as in our survival mechanisms. um yeah, this experience of linear time, I think, is just like a convenient sense for our brains in order to operate in this reality. But um, what Salvia does, and like any like deep psychedelic experience it does, it really distorts linear time. Um, it's strange because like I feel like my brain tries to make my psychedelic experiences go linearly. Like when I had the breakthrough experiences, like, yeah, I saw that creature, and then I look around and I saw that creature, and then I saw this, and then it exited. It kind of seems linear, but when I was in that space, you know, the passing of time was so much more different. It wasn't like this passing of time whatsoever. And again, that can be experienced with pod as well, and with DPDR. I'm sure you can have the time distortions and other um, mental illnesses. Out of body experiences from weed are incredibly intense and often terrifying. Yeah, again, that psychonautophobia or vertigo when losing your body, it's pretty intense. Our bodies aren't equipped for it, or like, I'm sorry, our bodies seem to be equipped for it and want to evolve into these out of body experiences and these psychedelic states. That's my belief. But like we're right now, because of metabolism, of like, in order to keep us up to this point, we've had to suppress these things. But now I think we're evolving to a point where we need to start evolving into those spaces. And I think maybe even like in the future we'll have a lot less psychonautophobia or like vertigo when it comes to these things. We'll just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna trip into another dimension tonight, it's no big deal. I don't know, maybe it'll happen. Haha. And Jake Fiasco says, I understand your stance on Salvia, toy people meaning childhood, but these toy people are evil. They tore me up and laughed at me and wanted me to suffer. Yeah, again, the sinisterness of the Salvi experience, I think, it can be attributed to the KO system, the kappa opioid system, because it is they give off, I think, diorphins are what they're called, and are largely responsible for experiences of dissociation, uncomfortableness, pain, suffering, and because since Salvia is a highly what's that word? Fuck. Um, highly selective kappa opioid agonist. Um, these dysphoric feelings can be interpreted, and these beings can therefore kind of react to those feelings because again they're diorphins, and these are what these receptors do. And if you ever take DMT, I know you just said that you did do DMT. Maybe you can attest to this. But the beings and DMT are generally less malicious. They don't really want you to suffer. In fact, most of the time, they want to help you and teach you. And I think this is because of the difference between the kappa opioid receptors versus the serotonin receptors. Serotonin receptors are attributed to a lot of happiness and good feelings and euphoria. And so, no. Holly Wolf says, or the was what the only answer or only thing that would ever be. My friend snapped me out of it a couple of times, and apparently would be fine for a second and then straight back into it. That sounds like a psychedelic experience to me. It was insane. Honestly, never had experienced anything like it. OMG, sometimes when I smoke weed, when things are starting up, I'll hear a lot of sounds like are almost nostalgic for me. They're hard to differentiate and pick out individually, but there's a feeling. Yeah, like kind of like nursery bells or something like that, or like some tinkling. Again, like uh, I feel like our experience is kind of like compressing in these timeless realms. So like the point and feelings of like being a child again is like it's right there, just as accessible as yesterday or 5 minutes ago. Yeah, and I think these psychedelic experiences, the fact that they can be accessed in so many different ways, really points to me that our brain is capable of accessing these in many different ways. That our brains are kind of programmed to do this eventually. I know the indigenous have been doing it for centuries, and according to Terence McKenna's theory, maybe it's how we evolved out of apehood. Apehood, I've never heard it called that. Next time you take Salvia, listen to psytrance, and you can see the music and feel it, and it becomes so insane when a part of the trip. Yeah, I bet. I would like to try that out. I haven't done Salvia with music yet, just because I like to hear the music within the Salvia experience, because there's a lot of auditory hallucinations with Salvia that I find super interesting. The marching. On a low dose, I could hear the marching of all the beings, like they were like in a parade, and it was like almost like they were mocking me, like, haha, we're having such a fun time without you, too bad you didn't do enough. um so yeah, I wouldn't have been able to hear that if I was listening to music. No, but like I'm sure it'd be just another really interesting experience to have. Definitely worth a try. Do you know James from Adventures Through the Mind? He is also from Canada. You should talk to him sometime. I think you guys would really like each other. Spyor Clubbert says. Actually, I didn't know James was from Canada, for one, but James actually gave me a shout out. He saw my Salvia Archetypes video, and he did this interview with Christopher Solomon a few weeks ago. And yeah, and they were talking about Salvia, and he brought up my video about the archetypes, which I was just like blushing. I couldn't believe that. He couldn't remember my username when he was interviewing him, unfortunately. Oh well, but like just the fact that he watched that video. I'm actually kind of embarrassed of that first Salvia Archetypes video just because it's been so long ago. I'm more happy with the second Archetypes video I made, and hopefully I'll make some better content coming up. But like whatever, it's my most viewed video right now. I would like to talk to James, and hopefully maybe one day when I get better at this and do more learning and stuff, he'll actually want me on his show. That'd be cool. And if I find out where he is in Canada, maybe I can actually meet up with him in person. Yeah, Adventures Through the Mind. I didn't. That's one of the people I forgot to mention. But Adventures Through the Mind, good podcast, good interviewer, psychedelic guy. Jake Fiasco says psychedelics always taught me that we are one being and to be one with everything. Yeah, exactly. Haha, exactly, man. Every single time I take Salvia, I see the toy people. I have no idea why it does this every time, but it makes me believe it's more than just a drug. Yeah, a lot of people, when they think about drugs, they think that like the drug is interacting with your brain and it's just fucking things up. But there's a few different ways that drugs or chemicals can interact with your brain. For example, cocaine spikes dopamine in your dopamine receptors, and it like spikes it up rapidly and kind of burns out those receptors. But psychedelics, the way they work is that they actually fit in those receptors better than serotonin. So they just kind of elbow serotonin out of the way and fit into those spaces better. And so it seems like it's more of a lock and key mechanism, that it's like we're locked into this experience, experiencing things this way because of metabolism, because of our survival mechanisms. But once we're introduced with these keys, unlocking our receptors and being able to divert into these new passages and being able to perceive things differently. Yeah, so like again, so like it's not just chemical reactions that are happening. It could literally be that we're being unlocked from certain modes and put into different paths. I'm uh, and I think reducing things to just drugs is not, it's very lazy, and it's just like a blanket explanation. It explains nothing. It's the same thing. I get a lot of people commenting being like, oh, the reason why we experience the same archetypes on Salvia is because our brains are structured differently. That, to me, that really explains nothing. Our brains are built similarly enough that we can interact in the society, but can we confidently say that, for example, the shepherdess will say, is the shepherdess like, or our conceptions of what a shepherdess is it located in the same places in our brain? Is it the KO system? Then that's why we always see this shepherdess. Whenever anybody cognizes what a shepherdess is, it always like is within the KO system. It doesn't really explain anything. Um, it's just a loose kind of like, oh, it's just a product of your imagination. Oh, it's just a dream. We don't know what imagination or dreams are or anything really. So reductionism is just distasteful. Spyor Clever says, my username is Chad1997. Message me on the app Kilk, or Kick, I mean. If any of you want to join, very much love to have you. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to write that down. Chad1997. Is that when you were born? I was born in 94. Yeah, I was born in 94. I'm 25 right now, and I was watching a live stream of Philosophy Tube, which is a YouTuber I'm a really big fan of, and he's he just turned 26, and I was like, what the heck, man. Want to be in like his position when I'm 26, hopefully. I want to get myself associated more with leftist YouTube. And by the way, when I'm talking about leftism, I'm not going to talk about politics too much. But when I say I'm left, I don't mean liberal. That's all. We are very much about harm reduction in the psychedelic discussion group. Yes, very much so. Even here, I mean. Oops, the thing jerked again. Man, I've been missing a lot. I'm going through this slowly, aren't I? I should speed up through this. I'm not going to be able to catch up with this conversation. I'm just going to skip a bunch then. If any of you want to join the psychedelic group, feel free to message me. Will do. Yes, I always thought Salvia was taking me into 2D. Yeah, it's like, and I mean literally, we're becoming two-dimensional. Like our consciousness is being flattened. It's not just like an illusion. Excuse me. Jake Fiasco says, if you go live again, I'll join sooner. I didn't get a notification, but I enjoy these lives. You joined in pretty soon, Jake Fiasco. You're good. Anton Levy says, yo, yo, yo. To which I say, yo, yo, yo. It's good to see you, Anton. Um, or good to see you in the group chat. I can't actually see you. Jake Fiasco says, "What's the highest dose of mushrooms you've ever taken?" My highest dose, believe it or not, was that 3.5 trip I posted. And I drank a bunch of orange juice with it too. And since then, I haven't taken more of it. I've been feeling the call to do it. To be honest, since moving to Halifax, I haven't been doing psychedelics much, for a few reasons. Just because I'm trying to be responsible and like, keep myself in this apartment, do my schoolwork and stuff like that. But also because of financial reasons, I can't actually afford psychedelics right now. So like I've been getting this deep urge to do like some like deep exploration. I want to do the 5G heroic dose, but like sometimes I feel like a sham, like a fake or on here on YouTube. I've like had some breakthrough psychedelic experiences, but like not very many in the last couple of years. I would definitely like to do a higher dose on mushrooms. I wouldn't even doubt a lot of people in this discussion group is taking more psychedelics than me. I fully support everybody here making a YouTube channel. That would be awesome. I would subscribe to you. Spy Org Clubbert says it depends on the strain. Some strains are almost 3 times as potent as commonly sold cubensis. Yeah, again, that's very true. I grew mushrooms before, and actually, yeah, technically, I took more mushrooms from with the grown mushrooms. I took like I didn't even measure it. I took a enormous amount of these mushrooms that I grew this once. I think they're Alicabenses, psilocybin cubensis, and they I didn't really feel much. It was like less than a gram. They're weak as fuck. I think I overwatered them. Uh, do you have your own plants? Would you grow her one day? I would love to grow salvia. You said her, so I assumed you mean Salvia, but yeah, I would love to have a psychedelic garden. Uh, I've done 7 grams of Burma mushrooms alone. Absolutely wild. I was speaking to my spirit self, having conversations with aliens. The mushrooms took full control of me. I would not doubt that. That would be amazing. I would love to read that trip report. Carter Felder says, it's just too real. It must be real. As Radiohead has said, just because you feel it doesn't make it real or doesn't mean it's there. Quoting Radiohead now. Yeah, for example, with Salvia, like I had this deep intuition that uh, that experience I had on Salvia, like it was the same experience I had before I was born. And that was like a deep intuition that it felt very real, but I can't solidly say that's true. And, but and that's not to say that I think the psychedelic experience isn't real or like the feelings you have on it isn't real, but rather I can't even confidently say what's happening right now, me being in this body, speaking on this live stream. I can't confidently say this is real because, this could just be a dream my brain is making up. What does that mean anyways? What is real? It must be real? I don't know. For convenience sake, I have to say this is real, but I wonder sometimes. Would Carl says, would you say there might be no difference between in your head and something deeper? Hmm. Hmm. Um, it's hard to say, like, because I don't think we're really, in a sense, there isn't really any difference because, it all is just one thing. So that something deeper is right here too. But I would say the more abstract it gets, um, the more deeper it is. Um, for example, if because sometimes I have like really brief hallucinations of like looking at a can and thinking I see a Coke, but really it's a different brand. Or one time I saw at the bus stop, I thought I saw somebody drinking water because I was reaching for my water, but then I looked again, they weren't holding water at all. They had a book. They're holding a book. My brain interpreted it as water. So that's not really a deep hallucination. That just seems like it was like my brain was trying to fill in the gaps and guess what was happening. and it made a quick judgment. So that wasn't really a deep hallucination. So I think there is some distinction. Sometimes it's just like our brain making a quick guess, and then other times it's like a really profound thing. It's really hard to say though. Carter Felder says we'll never now or never know. We'll destroy ourselves before we find out. Yeah, honestly, we're in a ecological crisis or economic crisis right now. Um, the world is literally on fire. We're probably going to destroy ourselves. Ronald Lopez says, "Good to see you active. There is a criminal lack of info on the subjectivity of salvia. I how we get more access to live plants. People are afraid of the conversation. Yeah, too many people are afraid of the conversation. Uh, yeah, it really blurs the line of objectivity and subjectivity because what we think of as objective is actually just the collective subjective, or rather, for example, if I was on my bed tripping my balls off and there was like a room of people, they can all see me. I'm not actually going anywhere. I'm not conversing with aliens, but that's just so that objective experience of me just lying down on the bed is their subjective experience. Again, it's really hard to figure out. This life is very confusing. And people being afraid of conversation, again, it's this psychonautophobia. And yeah, I do want to be doing more live streams. Plan on doing them more. Spyware Clubbert says there's both depending on the drug and the dose, and can grow into other realms, meet entities, and you can encounter a lot of things that are like brain noise. Yeah, it's hard to distinguish which is which. Carter says cannabis can be just as strong as LSD, in my opinion. Yeah, I can agree. It's just a shorter experience. Yeah, it also depends on the person too. Like, weed can be massively intense for some people. Holly Wolf says, I remember one time when I was pretty deep on DPDR. I don't know if it affected this. I'm pretty sure I had an astral projection experience. It was really crazy. Yeah, these psychedelic experiences, astral projections and out of body experiences, visionary experiences, these are all just kind of like dream yoga, dreaming, and even the DMT experiences. These are all like these unconscious or like subconscious experiences, um, and they are distinct, but they are different, but at the same time they all are kind of a psychedelic experience. Like, I think schizophrenia and DPTR, DP or DR, I mean, can are very psychedelic as well. It's anything. I mean, the word psychedelic, all it means is mind manifesting. So what does that mean? Everything is mind, anyways, probably. Cyborg then says edibles can be brutal. Yeah, I agree. Out of body experiences, creepy cartoons, and gods. Wow, Hindu gods. Wow, I didn't know you could go that deep. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that much, but that's pretty awesome. Must have been really intense. Edibles aren't visual for me, Spyorg. They just make my thoughts go nuts. Yeah, again, it's different for everyone. I do also think that, for example, if you've done DMT and don't do weed very often, weed can become more psychedelic because I think once a door is open, once you've experienced these breakthrough experiences, you can kind of like even through meditation and shit like that, you can actually like attain these experiences. It takes more willpower, conscious willpower, or like maybe even the lack thereof of like really letting go. But once these doors are open, they're more easily accessible, is what I'm trying to say, and you can access them through different routes. Say like even just taking a lot of weed. Okay, it's coming up on the 2 hour mark, so I'm gonna spend these 7 minutes. I'm gonna get through these. A real deal, super powerful. How do you think we can ensure safety, physical and mental, when experimenting? Sally is scary. Yeah, with Sally, I'm gonna do these experiments and then I'll get back to you. But Christopher Solomon, that guy that was in the interview with Jake from Adventures Through the Mind, he made this a salvia bong that you can get. It's called salvia pipe, salviapipe.com. And basically it's just like it looks like a jar, and it's got this straw out of it that you suck on, and it's a water pipe, but it has 5 bowls that you can just like switch around, and so you don't have to keep loading up the salvia pipe, and then that way you like when you're like easing into the salvia experience, you don't have to worry about loading the pipe again. And I'm getting one of these pipes in the mail, which I'm really looking forward to. And I think that when it comes to salvia divinorum and experimenting with that, it's probably best to like kind of start feeling the sensations and ease into it, because super super intense if you just dive in like I did. It literally feels like death. Spyord Clubbard says, take way more without a tolerance. Takes way more without a tolerance. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Especially if you don't know what you're looking for, it can take a lot more. But it will put you there once you know what to expect, or like once those doors are opened. How much we talking? Carter Filter says, have a safe setting and consider as much as you can get. You can't overdose from weed. Yikes! I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. The trip sitter take 5,000 milligrams of THC. Gotta know the person. I don't even know how you would do that. Uh, my dosage recommendation for salvia, I would recommend, like, if you have a lot of money, I would recommend getting like dry leaf and 5x and 10x and 20x. But if you can't afford that, maybe just 5x and 20x, and then you can play around with that. But since it works on reverse tolerance, you can, once you break through, you could probably like lower your doses and still like find a way to break through, or like, you know, play within that. For me, 20x was just fine. For other people, they need a lot more. But always start lower. Okay. Don't, if you start off with 20x like I did, it can be really intense. You can start off at 20x. Say if you just had 20x, you only had enough for 1 gram of 20x. Just put a tiny, tiny bit, like a flake, 2 flakes, like that much, and just like lightly burn it and then feel it. Not enough. Put 3 flakes. You know, that's how you gauge it. Holly Wolf says, I straight up was out of my body looking back down at myself. Yeah, that's the true OBE experience. So freaked out, started crying. My friend's mom, who's a psychic, was in her room down the hallway, and I think she heard me. Heard you in the air, or heard you crying. That's really interesting. I've heard of people and out of body experiences contacting other people who are highly psychic, or has access to these types of realms. It's hard to say because a lot of psychics are like fake exploiters. If a psychic, if somebody was psychic and wasn't like making a career off of it, I think I would be more likely to believe them. But I don't know. It's just hard to say. Okay. I wasn't technically in my body, and she must have gotten feeling signs somehow that was. I went to sit at the end of her bed, and she asked who was there. Oh wow! If I remember correctly, she told me that was even a dent on the end of the bed where it apparently was. Okay. Hmm. Um. I could see how like somebody like again through quantum honing in on these the quantum consciousness of like that's a way to do it, then a psychic could be able to perceive you if you're in OBE. I really don't see how you could actually like make the bed go down though, like if you're in that psychic space. That's really wild experience though. um you can't really bring higher dimensional things back to lower dimensions at that moment. Yeah, that's my interpretation, but like I wasn't there. I also remember like slamming back into my body. This was happened different levels on multiple occasions. Yeah, and like when you get back into your body, it's like you actually feel that physical force. Um, just bring a crystal. You'll keep capture it. Hashtag jokes. Um, I heard marching too. Yeah, come up from my Salvia trip. I hear them marching to me and closer and peak. Yeah, yeah, the marching band. Oh, they start hurting you? Oh no. Yeah, maybe that's the dysphoric thing. Maybe if we ease into it, like that'd be better. Um, oh, thank you, Spywork. I really appreciate you saying that. saying I have some of the best Salvia content, and I hope that I can make some even better stuff coming up too. I'm really hoping that I can, or I mean, I will. I'm definitely gonna make some more. Um, uh, uh, let's see. I'm gonna. JK Esco says I'll make a YouTube channel. I have a lot of stories to tell. I'm just waiting for it more. Oh, right on. Be sure to message me what your YouTube channel is if you make one, and then I'll subscribe and give you a shout out too. Psychedelic community, we're not in competition with each other. We're here for each other. Ronald Lopez says, like a 2D slice of an entire planet, axes constantly shifting our direction. I usually have something I wanted to try DPH to see what DXM is fun too. I just hate the sick feeling. I've only tried DPH once and will only do it once. Yeah, I haven't tried DPH. I'm not sure. Is that a dissociative too? I know DXM is. I'd be interested in trying DXM just to see how similar it is to Salvia, but I'm not really super interested in the dissociatives. They're just not um, what I'm into. I'm into like the psychedelic experience, and I know ketamine can be psychedelic, and MDMA can be psychedelic, but I'm really want to get the hallucinations. That's what I'm really into. Um, yeah, it's also the same reason why I'm not as into 5-MeO DMT, because of how often it isn't really like a visual experience. I want the visuals. As an artist, I need that creativity. I need I'm a very visual person. I like the auditory and uh, visual hallucinations. That's my bread and butter. That's my jam. Salvia and Toast says thoughts are on the uncanny similarities between Salvia experiences. Thoughts on the uncanny similarities between Salvia experiences revealing we're all common copies of each other. Yeah, exactly. And if you've experienced the wheel, it's like this wheel is rotating in the sea of interbeings, and the interbeings get sucked into the wheel and start experiencing it. But like we're all part of this consciousness cosmic soup. Um, Salvia really dissolves the boundaries between individuals and objects, even. Yeah, I was talking about panpsychism before. I didn't really explain what it was. Panpsychism is a belief or a theory. I believe it as a theory. I don't believe it. I try not to believe things. But it's that like everything, all matter contains some degree of consciousness. It'd be like, for example, a photon would have um, a very primal, like proto version of consciousness, but it's still there. It doesn't have the higher order of comprehension that our brains have. But the idea that all matter is conscious. This is also what Salvia might be able to prove. The fact that we're able to be projected and like experience what it's like to be an object, as the whole object and as like a molecule in that object, like because the object is an emergent quality of all the little bits that uh, build it up. So again, Salvia really argues for panpsychism, idealistic body mind problem. Or sorry, I didn't really say that right. Salvia really argues that for the panpsychic view that um, that its mind is fundamental, consciousness is fundamental. Spirog says, if you can find pure DXM, it is far easier on the stomach. Pills and syrup have many fillers that make me sick. My mistake. I've seen physical objects manifest while on psychedelics. It would appear that realm can affect ours physically sometimes. DPH is a deliriant. Oh, okay. I'm interested in Datura, although I'm like, man, some of the tour trips I find super interesting, but it sounds so uncomfortable and dangerous. I'm not sure if I'm interested in. I'm interested in deliriants, but I'm not sure if I'd actually try it. Just because, like, yeah, deliriants do exactly what they sound like they do. They disorient you. They make you delirious, and therefore can be very dangerous. I would definitely want to have a stable and calm trip sitter if I was going to take a deliriant. And before I read more, I wanted to comment on your comment. I've seen physical objects manifest while on psychedelics. It would appear the realm can affect ours physically sometimes. Um, I have heard one experience where um, a person was had an alien, and during a Salvia experience, had an alien throwing these balls at his face, and they were cutting like along his lips, and he had like a strong sensation of that when they were throwing these balls. And apparently, he still has the scars, like these really faint scars. Um, Maybe in this case, it's like the strong psychological sensation of feeling those cuts could actually manifest those. I mean, we already know. I can't remember the disorder's name right now, but there's like these pain disorders where people are in feeling chronic pain when there's actually nothing wrong in their bodies. And what that tells me is that like the fact that your brain can make you go into crippling pain when there's actually nothing causing pain, like technically, physically, um, tells us that our brains can't has like just that much power and can probably scar you just through like an intense hallucination. Although like I'm a little bit skeptical about like whether or not psychedelics can actually like can cause a what's that called? Is that telekinesis? When like you can move things and objects with your mind? I'm skeptical about that. um Yeah, Datura and DPH are very similar. Okay. Would is DPH safer? The physical risks are too much for me to take them again. Okay. Did he have a sitter? Maybe he was rubbing his face against something sharp while out of body. I don't think he had a sitter. No. I'll see if I can find the report and I'll like put it in the description because it's actually a really cool report. He went to like 3 different places and um, uh, if I remember correctly, his username was Antipop. Yeah, I'm not gonna look it up right now. I'll just leave it in the description. I think it was Antipop, and I think it was on Arrowhead. I can't remember, but yeah, if he was on his bed, I can't see anything being sharp there and him rubbing up against it. But maybe that's a possibility. Um, I'll have to investigate the report a little bit more. Holy Wolf says, "Oh yeah, to mention she barely even talks about it to people. My friend's mom being psychic, and I am still very skeptical about the whole dent in the end of the bed thing. I didn't see it myself. Maybe she could feel the indent or something. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. Huh? I actually haven't. I actually would believe that a psychic would be able to see you on an OBE. I'm skeptical of whether like while in OBE you could move a physical object. I'm not sure if like that psychic energy can actually move a physical object just because of these physical objects are um, if we're taking the psychic view is manifested through the collective mind, like so like everybody's perceiving it. So I don't know. Maybe the fact that she was the only one in the room, therefore you could move an object in that room because she's like tapped into that realm as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. Sorry for a bit late with this finding. I was telling my friend about how excited I am to be at this last you know. Oh, that's so nice. Tell your friend I said hi. Yes, tell your friend I said hi. Um, I'm glad you're excited to be here. I don't mind that you responded late. Um, Spyor, can I anything's possible, it seems. Could you tell me, is DPH any more or less dangerous than Datura? Um, I mean, like if it's a pure chemical, then you would know the dosage a little bit more because I know the Datura seeds are probably or the Jimson weed seeds are very variant and like from pod to pod. So I'm sure like if you had pure DPH, maybe like you can measure your dose better. It's like is DPH any more or less dangerous? I would like to know. I'm gonna look it up later anyways, but um Thomas Fisherson says, have you looked into CIA research into OBEs? It's fascinating. No, I haven't. That does sound interesting. If you have an article, you can send it to me on Instagram or my email. My email is just interbeingart@gmail.com. Or is it interbeing? Yeah, it's just interbeingart@gmail.com if you ever want to email me anything. Um, and And yeah, or on Instagram, any way you can message me. I'm always interested in these findings. People message me all the time telling me about their psychedelic experience, and I really love it. I really enjoy that. Um, Salvia and Toe says, "Do you think Salvia is as mysterious slash paranormal as it's thought to be, or simply the archetypes and dissociations, although eerily similar, of the plant's profile as opposed to our brain?" I think again, I think it's a combination. Like the fact that it's like the spirit of Salvia tapping into these very specific receptors and like using a lot of the hardware and things that are already there in order to communicate with us, but it also brings something unique and merges with that. For example, the fact that when this is the example I always use, when I see all these interbeings, I've never seen these beings before, but they're wearing T-shirts that I was like interested in when I was a kid. I really like the Hawaiian T-shirts that Weird Al would wear, and there's a lot of other T-shirts that I would wear as a kid, and they were dancing on these suburban streets. So that those the T-shirts in the suburban streets tell me that uh, they were borrowed from my hardware, or maybe somewhere deeper in my psyche. But then the actual beings and the spiritual presence behind them, it feels like that came from somewhere else. Maybe like the spirit consciousness from the plant. Um, like it's like a merging, uh, uh not a merging, not emerging. uh Spyorg Clubber says they both can leave you with permanent brain damage. I don't think either is safe. Salvia is about as mysterious as it gets. Yeah, salvia can traumatize you, but I don't think it actually damages your brain. I know some people actually developed DP or DR from taking like really high doses of salvia when they didn't know what it was. I feel so bad for people who like, oh yeah, I'll try salvia. What is this? 100x? I don't know what that means. 100x is extremely, extremely powerful. I would never try 100x personally. I don't even know why they make them that high. I don't think it's even necessary. I mean, some people might, um, but yeah, with these deliriants, they actually have fucked people up even just on like light doses where like months after they can't think straight, they can't speak well, they can't even read. They're like their minds all fucked up and they still experience hallucinations or cough up liquid and stuff like that. It's super, super sad. Although there's a few Datura trips I've read that are just so interesting. They're like mind blowing. But yeah, I guess I'll just, some drugs I think are better just to read about, and I think Datura is one of them. Um, I wouldn't recommend it just because of in so many ways it's so dangerous. As aside from it being a poison on its own, deliriants are just so dangerous. Um, do you mean the salvia spirit literally or biological profile? Um, uh, yeah, I think the salvia spirit is merging with your psychological hardware in your brain, and it can kind of like take t-shirts and then like put its own spirit in there, and then you create this like interaction within your mind, or maybe just on the edge of your mind. I think I think only through death can you really be completely taken away from your mind. Like there, even on deep, deep DMT trips, when you completely lose your ego, there's still some tether to your brain, or else you would actually just die. um, I don't know though. This is all speculation. But also, the fact that salvia, DMT is produced in very small amounts in your brain, but salvia isn't. Although it still binds to the kappa opioid receptors very, very well. But there's definitely something more to salvia. Like I don't know, some plant characteristics that bring something new to the table. Um, Even in the chemical itself. I mean. Biorg Clubbert says, not worth the risk at all, even though it is very interesting. Yeah, I agree. Fisherson says, DPH is actually linked to increased risks of dementia. I'm not sure about other deliriants. As far as all the deliriants I've heard is like has this strong link to dementia. Yeah, so I've been talking for like 2 hours and 15 minutes now. I really have to go to the washroom and eat dinner. I have a lot more things I'd like to say and discuss. This was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll even do this again next Saturday. Wow, I don't know why the light changed so much. I think my camera's just adjusting to light changes as the night's falling. I'm not changing any lights. The sun's not coming out at all. The light's just changing a lot. Um, all of these streams keep them up. Thank you, Spywork. I really appreciate you. I've seen you like on other YouTube channels. Thank you for being active in the psychedelic community. All of you, Salvia and Toast. I really love seeing you around too. Thank you for being around. Thomas Fisherman. Why can't I ever say your name right? Thomas Fisherson. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, Ollie Wolf. The weird Salvia essence has to be the strangest thing on the planet. Just simply just a reaction. It is. I think it's the strangest thing in the world. Carl, that was really interesting talk. Thanks. Thank you, Carl. Yes. I don't really have any closing words. But be sure to experience the flower full moon out tonight. It is a full moon tonight, so it's a really special time. I really appreciate you spending the time with me and talking about psychedelics. I'm doing as much research and exploration as possible, and yeah, so please like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, I don't think I have any closing words, so I'll probably just go. Yeah, I'm finishing up the next video. Hopefully I can get the next video out by next weekend, if not the weekend after. And yeah, I'll do some more live streams to you enjoy your evening too, Carter. Have a great night, Spyorg. Yeah, and I'm gonna do these live streams in order to keep people satisfied because video editing takes so long. It takes so long, and I'm in school and looking for work, so it's just hard to do all these things. But you know, YouTube is a high priority of mine. I very much am grateful for this platform, and I encourage other people to make YouTube videos as well. You know, psychedelic community strong. Love and peace to all. Namaste. All have a good night. Enjoy the full moon. Sweet dreams. Trip well. Trip safe.